Hey guys, this is my league and this is the podcast. Today we have a listener letter. Picture this. It's your wedding day, a moment you have meticulously planned for and dreamed about. But then a historic snowstorm hits Dallas, Texas, turning your special day into a chaotic and unforeseen adventure. Our listener story today is a testament to resilience, perspective, and the power of love. In her letter, she shares the emotional journey of dealing with family dynamics, unplanned weather disasters, and the profound realization of what truly matters. This story isn't just about a wedding day. We're going to talk about how to find peace in the midst of chaos and learning to navigate through the noise of the opinions of others. So grab your favorite whatever. If you are on a walk, if you are sitting and listening and you've got your coffee, your wine, whatever it is, settle in. And I want you to join me as we dive into this journey. We're going to talk about disappointment, but ultimately this is about acceptance. So let's explore how to take life's unexpected moments, pull the lessons from them, and embrace the beauty in every challenge. Let's get into the letter. She says, first, thank you for all the ways you've helped me navigate unfamiliar situations and stand for my integrity. I have a dilemma that I'd appreciate assistance with. I hesitate to share this with most people because it can feel like it comes off as an insignificant issue. There was a historic snowstorm on my wedding day in Dallas, Texas. If you know anything about Texans and cold weather, you already know the chaos that ensued. This caught me by surprise because I am a planner and had reviewed the weather history for the last 10 years before my husband and I selected a date, and I just knew we'd have a high of 65 and a low of 50.
This episode is brought to you by Essentia. A better you starts with better hydration. Essentia is on a mission to inspire people to do what matters most. Their proprietary ionization process transforms water from any source into ionized alkaline water, providing water that's 99.9% pure with a pH of 9.5 or higher. Essentia overachieving H2O, the #1 ionized alkaline water. Shop now.
Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
USAA. Also, I was being considerate by reducing possible options to find a date that would be most convenient for my brother-in-law, who was playing professional football at the time. Throughout the wedding planning process, many of my in-laws were not encouraging. They frequently made comments to diminish our relationship in upcoming wedding ceremonies. Simply put, I believe many of them were upset to see us strengthening our relationship and planning a beautiful celebration. When I saw the snow ice on our wedding day, I immediately felt all the effort we put into planning, all the money we saved and spent, 400 guests, and all the preparations made to ensure a smooth and enjoyable celebration were futile. As you can assume, the flood of texts from people sharing things that you shouldn't share with a bride on her wedding day started coming in as I was getting ready. I heard the rumblings and grumbling from my wedding party, all of it. It took some years to reconcile feeling disappointed that we didn't get to execute our wedding day in the way that we hoped. I recently started to see God's hand in that day. There were hundreds of accidents and casualties in the DFW Metroplex that day, but not one wedding guest was impacted. God did not allow our wedding day to be associated with anyone's critical injury or death, and that in itself was a miracle considering what we saw on the roads. I still feel regretful that we didn't have the weather we hoped for, and still harbor small feelings that what happened on our wedding day was unfair. It was especially hurtful since I felt my in-laws were reveling in the idea that our day was ruined by the snow and ice. I was upset that we gave them more to talk about and more ammunition to attempt to bring us down. As we approach our 9th anniversary, I'm tired of them acknowledging our wedding day with such negative exclamations. What a horrible day. We were on the road for hours. I'll never do that again. We saw so many accidents and I almost didn't come to your wedding. We told other family members to turn around and just not come. Don't risk it. I hate the cold. I couldn't believe you all still had the wedding. Your wedding would have been perfect if it didn't snow. I'll never forget your wedding day. It was so icy on the roads and I thought I was going to die. I recognize that this was their experience and I can understand the fear. I guess I believe it's insensitive because none of these remarks included congratulations or some encouragement for my husband and me. I wouldn't expect family or friends to continue to rehash why they felt my wedding day was horrible each year on my anniversary. What advice do you have if I'd like to start giving a response to these comments? It's been a while and I'm getting exhausted from listening and absorbing their insensitive comments about our wedding day and celebration. Okay, so I pulled together some thoughts that we can try on. You guys know how I am. If it fits, it fits. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I'm willing to be 100% wrong. First things first, happy anniversary. I tried my best to Google back a decade, 9 years. And from what I read, this seemed like a serious snowstorm with a rare phenomenon of cobblestone ice, which I understand was a significant factor in your wedding day challenges. Apparently, this type of ice can be particularly hazardous, making travel and outdoor activities difficult or even dangerous. So I just wanted to put that out there if I have that right, because I don't know your wedding date, but I just tried to do the math based on your email and the 9th anniversary. Now, if we back into this question, I'd probably start with what kind of comments would you like to start giving? What do you want to say? What feels right for you? Now, while you think about that, let's backtrack on this letter a little bit. First highlight I have is I was being considerate. When you move your wedding date around to accommodate others, my guess is that you do so because you want something in return. Maybe it is their presence, and I think it might be worth spending some time on that one. Did you have 400 guests coming to your wedding and move things around for one guest? You were saying the brother-in-law. I hear you, and I wonder if you wanted anything from that person's presence. I don't know, but those are just the questions that I thought about when you said I was being considerate. What did you truly desire for your wedding day? Martha Beck, who I love, suggests that we often fall into the illusion of powerlessness because we fear the reactions of others. This letter seems to echo that sentiment. But remember, you had the power then and you still have it now. And by the end of this, I hope that you can find something to hold on to, something that's going to empower you when you start getting these floods of texts on your anniversary. Now, next thing I'm going to go to is you said throughout the wedding planning process, many of my in-laws were not encouraging. They frequently made comments to diminish our relationship and upcoming wedding ceremonies. Simply put, I believe many of them were upset to see us strengthening our relationship and planning a beautiful celebration. It was especially hurtful since I felt my in-laws were reveling in the idea that our day was ruined by the snow ice. There are so many directions we can go here. My first thought is the in-laws are taking up a lot of space in this scenario. And I'm so curious about how your spouse dealt with this situation because, and this is where I told y'all my opinion, I believe it is their issue to handle. I have heard many stories of wives, spouses, partners trying to sort through in-law issues, such as disagreements over wedding planning, while their spouse just watches them spar. I've seen all kinds of disagreements. And I've seen many women who believe their connection and relationship hinges on how well they can get along with their in-laws. This ain't nowhere in no book, but this is just what I feel. In-laws come with the person who brought them there. Your issue with your in-laws are for your spouse to assist with. It would be best if you were not going up against the in-laws at all. I believe you take the issues to the spouse and you let the spouse work with them. I'm only sharing this because this is independent of you. This is just something I felt like I've wanted to say because I am now a mom and I am in lots of different groups and I see this dynamic all of the time. And this is just something that was shared with me, that sometimes we are putting in too much work trying to make the in-laws, this in-law relationship work, while the other person kind of just watches us do this. And it's just like, they actually are on your wristband. These are your people and you have to work with them. So it would be nice if they were encouraging. And I can't help but wonder what this wedding would have felt like if you had encouraged yourself from the beginning. What would this have looked like if you had made your day about you and your partner, your spouse, instead of centering your in-laws? How do they even get on the stage and get a hold of the microphone? I asked this knowing kind of how it happened because you shared it, but I'm just sharing for whoever may find themselves here in this letter or some version of it. You know, you get to be the main character of your wedding. Let's talk about the in-laws and specific instances of bad guests a little more, such as those who made insensitive comments about the weather or those who seemed to revel in the idea that the day was ruined. Psychologist Stephen Hayes discovered that when we stop focusing on other people's badness and look instead at our own values, we can shut down our fight response. What does that even mean? Fight, flight, or freeze are the three most basic stress responses. They reflect how your body will react to danger. The fight response is your body's way of aggressively facing any perceived threat, which could be a confrontational conversation with your in-laws. Flight means your body urges you to run from danger, which could be avoiding family gatherings. Freeze is your body's inability to move or act against a threat, which could be feeling paralyzed when faced with family conflicts. Now, back to the fight response and look at your values. What are your values? We're going to go back to this psychologist. He proposed a method of defining our values. He says, you do it by combining a verb and an adverb. This two-word combination should encapsulate a value you aspire to live by. Like, here are some examples: loving unconditionally, seeking constantly, teaching inspirationally. What resonates with you? What verb, adverb combination reflects a core value that you hold dear? Now, once you have your core value, how do we take our power back? If you were to choose love in this situation over fear, what might you do? So Martha Beck also has a quick guide on the acts of fear and sort of the power of love. And I'm going to give you some examples. So she says, fear always feels bad, motivates grasping, seizes control, insists on certainty, needs everything. I want to go back and do fear one more time. Fear always feels bad, motivates grasping, seizes control, insists on certainty, and needs everything. Love always feels good, motivates liberation, relaxes control, accepts uncertainty, needs nothing. One more time. Love always feels good, motivates liberation, relaxes control, accepts uncertainty, we're going to hang there, and needs nothing. Now, regarding my wedding and all that upset me, what is love? What actions and small choices can I make in love that return my power to me? I want you to know that I 100% agree with you. What happened on your wedding day wasn't fair, but it is reality. Spiritual teacher Byron Katie says, when we argue with reality, we lose but only 100% of the time. When we argue with reality, we are denying what already exists. This is just where I want to spend some time about the weather. She says, do you argue that the sun comes up every day? Do you argue that the earth rotates around the sun? No, you do not, because that is a part of reality that we have come to accept as the truth. Our day-to-day realities, especially the unpleasant ones, are often harder to accept. When you hear yourself saying things like, this shouldn't have happened, I wish he or she would be more nicer, more patient, more loving, more insert whatever word you have, then you are arguing with reality. And when we argue with reality, we try to deny, push away, and refuse to accept the truth of what is present in the moment. The harder we push it away, the more resistance we create to our reality, and the greater pain, fear, frustration, and suffering we create.
Two guys drove to work. Neither guy wore a seatbelt. One guy got a ticket. One guy didn't. The same two guys drove home. One guy wore a seatbelt. One guy didn't. One guy made it home. The guy not wearing his seatbelt didn't. Don't risk it. Click it or ticket. Paid for by NHTSA.
Now, there are a few life skills as important as the skill of acceptance, especially when it comes to family dynamics. Whether it's accepting that you can't control how others behave or accepting that conflicts will arise, all of it and much more depends on your ability to feel uncomfortable while doing the things that matter. Acceptance. This is probably my word of the year, maybe my word of the decade, is a powerful skill. It's the ability to experience the full spectrum of your thoughts and emotions without unnecessary avoidance or clinging, all in the service of what matters most to you. This is a skill that can bring you reassurance and peace in the face of challenging situations. Now, what if your response to anyone commenting about your wedding day was something aligned with your values and wrapped in love? It would be what feels good to say, what liberates you, what relaxes you, and needs nothing in return. You could express disappointment in their behavior while emphasizing your commitment to love and understandings. Two things can be true. The weather wasn't great, and it was one of the most significant days of my life. So I put together a copy and paste for you to try on. You can use it. You cannot. You can tweak it and throw it out. But here's a copy and paste to try on for those days, the texts or your robo response. While the weather was far from what we hoped for, our wedding day was one of the happiest days of our lives because we got to celebrate our love with all of you. Let's cherish the good memories and be grateful that everyone stayed safe. How's that? Remember, your wedding day was about your love and your commitment, and that's for you and your spouse to share. Remember, this is your journey, and I want you to let love, the love that you have for yourself, the removal of fear, I want you to let that guide your response. Thank you again for sharing your story, and happy anniversary. And remember that you can write me your letters. I'd love to explore them at hey, H-E-Y, at mytaughtyou.com.